All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
And we are back.
Yes, we are.
Loose Wheel Podcast, episode 35. So
The big 3-5.
35 of season 2. How about them apples? Anyway, Andrew Hayes here, Ethan Ignatowski with you, as always. And we have, let's get into the reviews here.
And now for last week's race reviews.
Darlington, the Southern 500. The Cookout Southern 500. Absolutely goated race name.
Not as good as the beef. It's what's for dinner 300 or whatever it is.
It was 300.
It was 300.
So Ethan, knowing ball. So let's get into it. Darlington. Xfinity race winner was Christopher Bell, which I predicted.
Shout out you.
That was about the highlight of my predictions. Going into stage 1, 115 laps, Bubba Wallace was on pole. Lap 2, Martin Truex spins, and he hits Blaney in the contact, and ensuing contact. Those two retired from the race. And lap 10, Wallace leads on restart. Green flag pit stops.
It was a good race for Martin Truex, though, in a sense. I mean, clinch playoff spot.
Yeah, he did clinch a playoff spot, but it was a little frisky for a while. After the green flag cycle, it went Wallace got passed by Larson. Larson, Wallace, Reddick, Briscoe, and Bell. And another round of green flag pit stops. The two had an uncontrolled tire. It was about the same order, but I didn't write it down. So yay me. After stage 1, it was Larson, Wallace, who was one of the bubble drivers, Briscoe, Reddick, Bell, Hamlin, Gibbs, who was another one of the bubble drivers, Byron, Berry, and Buescher, another bubble driver. Stage 2 takes us to lap 230. Ethan's doing strange things with his chair.
Dude, man can't spin around in his chair anymore?
It wasn't the what you did, it's the way you did it. Anyway,
being attacked here.
After stage 2, the stage 1 caution, and everyone pitted because you need tires at Darlington, was Larson, Wallace, Briscoe.
You need tires everywhere, thank you.
Well, you need tires at every time at Darlington. Briscoe, Reddick, Bell. Lap 123, start Larson holds lead. Green flag pit stops. I'm just going to skip the order here because there was another round of green flag pit stops. And the order after that was Larson, Briscoe, Bell, Byron, Reddick. Stage 2 results, Larson, Briscoe, Hamlin, Byron, Bell, Gibbs, who I mentioned earlier was one of those bubble drivers, Berry, Reddick, Wallace, another bubble driver, and Keselowski. Stage 3 took us to the end of the race, lap 367. Top 5 coming off of the pit road, Larson, Hamlin, Briscoe, Byron, Bell. Lap 233, Larson holds the lead. Green flag pit stops, and the lead after that was Larson, Briscoe, Gibbs, Chastain, and Reddick. Hocevar had a spin yellow. He did have the outside pole, but that was about all he had. And everyone pitted. Larson, Hamlin, Briscoe, Berry, Gibbs. Larson holds the lead. Lap 320 restart. Lap 322, Gilliland squeezes Buescher, and then Buescher spun Gilliland. That was really it. Caution came out. Back half field came in, including Buescher, who's one of those bubble drivers. At 327 restart, Larson to the lead. At 336, Hocevar had a big damage after his tire blew, caused caution. Your 5 were Larson, Briscoe, Hamlin, Gibbs, Bell. Chastain stayed out. Lap 342, Chastain holds the lead. Lap 342, 14 sends it and passes Larson, Chastain, and Gibbs. So, big passing. And then lap 344, big crash. Berry, Wallace, Gibbs, Suarez, Dillon, Gregson, and Byron were all in it. It started with Berry putting it 3 wide in the corner where it was Hamlin on the inside, Berry, and then Gibbs, and they all just ran out of room. Wallace had big damage, some pit. Lap 350, Briscoe leads. Then Kyle Busch was carving his way through the field on new tires. Briscoe wound up winning. Busch got close. And Reddick was the regular season points champion by 1. Actually, I'm going to rate the race here first. I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. Stage 3 was great. Stage 1 and 2, not so great. So, Reddick was the regular season champion by 1 point over Larson. And I think back, in particular for Larson, he had a ton of mistakes throughout the year where he lost points.
This race included.
Yeah. In general, he's had his fair share of errors, like other drivers have. But if Kyle Larson starts the Coca-Cola 600 instead of racing at the Indianapolis 500, he gets a point, and that would have been enough to give him the regular season points championship.
Yeah, I mean,
so that decision now cost him big time. At the end of the day.
It did. And here's the thing, though. If, you can never really account for things like what happened with the storm and all that. If it weren't for all that, then he would have, it would have counted for him, right?
Yeah.
So, it's that part's unfortunate for him. But like you said, he had multiple mistakes throughout the year and still only finished 1 point behind the guy. So, just on that alone, it shows. I mean, I think it says a lot about Kyle Larson. He missed a race, didn't maximize his potential, and still only finished 1 point behind the guy. So there's 2 ways to look at it. One, you can be like, Larson bottled it, or you can be like, wow, he missed an entire race and was still that close. That's really impressive.
Yeah. And if this story could be amplified more, because that's 5 point playoff points Larson's missing out on that Reddick is missing out getting.
Mm-hmm.
If Larson gets eliminated by less than 5 points in a race or in a round, or if it's Reddick within 10 points, the decision to stay in Indianapolis could be detrimental to his championship hopes. But we'll see. Chris Buescher, meanwhile, he lost by 12 points to Ty Gibbs. If Chris Buescher door slams Larson, Kansas, we're not having this conversation. Gibbs is out of the playoffs. If Reddick doesn't wipe out Buescher in Darlington, we might not be having this conversation. And then this race, Buescher lost by 12 points. He got 1 stage point. Ty Gibbs got 9 stage points. If you flip those numbers around, with Buescher getting 9 stage points and Gibbs getting 1, that means Buescher's in. So just the lack of the inability to get the stage points is what cost Buescher a shot at the championship.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah. With all that being said, we are going to look quickly and make our predictions of who will be the champion here of the playoff drivers. We have Larson, Bell, Reddick, Byron, Blaney, Hamlin, Elliott, Keselowski, Logano, Cindric, Suarez, Bowman, Briscoe, Burton, Gibbs, and Truex. That's your 16. Ethan in the first three races, Atlanta, Watkins, Glen, Bristol, who will be the 4 drivers getting eliminated?
Ooh, putting me on the spot here. We did not talk about this.
I'll go first.
Sure.
Here.
I do have a general. I have a few names I want to say, but yeah,
I'm
going
gonna
to
go with start off with the easy pickings. Harrison Burton.
Mm-hmm.
Not many finishes. Well, 2 finishes inside the top 10 this year, both coming in on super speedway tracks. So I think that's going to be an easy one to eliminate. After that, I will say Daniel Suarez hadn't had a great season, so I think he'll be eliminated. I'm also going to go with Chase Briscoe. He was a winner go home, and I think he's going to be going home in this first round. And then I'm going to go with Austin Cindric here in this first round.
I'm also going to go Harrison Burton, and I'm also going to go Chase Briscoe. I agree with you on those 2 guys. I'm also going to say in the first round, despite, he has experience, but in his final season, I think that Martin Truex Jr. will be out in the first round. He barely made it in. Don't think he's going to be able to make it out. And then, shall I go with a bit of a shocker? I'm going to say Alex Bowman.
So we both have Briscoe and
Burton.
I have Cindric and Suarez.
And then I have Bowman and Truex Jr.
All right. That's interesting predictions, for sure. Moving on to the
Bowman hasn't done anything in a minute. I don't know. Don't feel too confident in him.
Going into the next round, Kansas, Talladega, the Charlotte Roval.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to take out Gibbs.
Yeah.
I'm going to take out Bowman. I'm going to take out Keselowski. And I'm going to take out... I'm looking for something here like that. I'm going to take out Logano.
This is 4?
4, yeah. So my 2 are 4 were Bowman, Logano, Keselowski, and Gibbs.
Okay. I'm going to go with Gibbs, Suarez, and Cindric. And man, Logano, yeah. Keselowski lives to fight another round for me.
And then moving on to the round of 8, you have Las Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville. I'm going to go with my first elimination will be... I'm going to eliminate Truex.
I forgot that you didn't eliminate him. You think Martin Truex is going to last that long?
Yeah, he's a good enough racer. I think he's a guy, when the lights are bright, you can rely on him generally. The guy who you cannot rely on when the lights are bright is Denny Hamlin. I'm also eliminating William Byron. Hasn't done anything of late. And then finally, I have Larson, Bell, Reddick, Blaney, and Elliott that I have to eliminate one from. And I'm going to eliminate... Christopher Bell just hasn't been as consistent as I'd like him to be this year. A lot of DNFs.
Yeah. I'm going to go Keselowski, Elliott, Blaney, And then that leaves me...
with one other spot.
Yeah, with one other spot.
Hamlin, Byron, Bell, Larson, and Reddick. One of them's got to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the deal. Spoiler alert for later on in this episode. I am picking William Byron to win Atlanta.
Okay.
Now, enlighten me here on the playoff rules, Andrew. One win would not necessarily be enough playoff points to stay through all the way till the Final Four.
No.
By any means, really.
No.
So
they do reset at Kansas and Vegas. And
right,
that would
at the end of
yeah.
each little mini round.
Yeah.
So, because of that, although I do back Byron here in the short term, I don't feel the same about him in the long term. He is my fourth to join that group.
All right. So round of 4, that leaves, for both of us, Larson, Reddick. I have Blaney and Elliott. You have Bell and Hamlin.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of players at Phoenix Raceway, the guy of those who I don't think is a serious player, Tyler Reddick. He just hasn't won there. Just doesn't come to mind. Chase Elliott, he did have a race win and he was hot going in to that Phoenix race. That was you could kind of feel it.
Mm-hmm.
That could be Elliott. Elliott hasn't done much there since. So that leaves Larson and Bell. Bell won the Phoenix race where Larson only finished 14th. I think it's Bell's time. Oh, actually, I don't have Bell, and I'm an idiot. I have Blaney and Larson. Blaney and Larson finished 14th. Blaney finished 5th. Blaney hasn't won at Phoenix, but he's been, over the last 2 fall races, I think second and second. But I think he's going to win this time and win the championship. Ryan Blaney going back-to-back. That's my prediction. Probably will be wrong because he has a 1/16th shot mathematically, technically.
Yeah.
But
I mean, chances of either of us getting it right are not too great, but, you know, it's fun, you know? That's what we're here for. I will go about this in a similar way as you did.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, Tyler Reddick, you know, he has some success there in the spring race in March. Couple of third-place finishes. Finished 10th this year. But then you go and look at, you know, the race at the end of the year in November. 19, 19, 23, 22. Doesn't have success there, seemingly, in the fall. Not sure what it is. Maybe it's nothing. But that's the way it has been historically. So it doesn't give me a whole lot of faith in the regular season points leader. That is something he can hang his hat on. He won the regular season, but for me, he will not win the playoffs. Moving on next to Denny Hamlin. Andrew, is Denny Hamlin arguably the best driver to never win a Cup Series?
Arguably, I think there's cases
I would
for
make
him.
that argument, I think.
Mark Martin and Junior Johnson are probably the best 3.
Yeah. So, I have Hamlin in my top 4, but I do not have him in my top 1.
Mm-hmm.
He's been pretty good at Phoenix in the past. I know he has 1 win there. Does he have more than 1 win?
I think
not
I've seen
sure.
multiple. I don't know.
But he has 1 win. He has top 10s, you know, top 5s, top 3s throughout his long career.
Mm-hmm.
Denny Hamlin, still a very good driver, but just don't think there's enough there to get it quite done. Next guy I want to talk about, Kyle Larson. I mean, if you spend any time on the internet, you'll know how highly people rate this guy. Me and Andrew have talked about it, and maybe we'll have a little... I think we agree, so it wouldn't really be a debate, but we'll have a discussion about what it means to be the best driver in the world and how that's really an impossible question to answer. But regardless, Kyle Larson is certainly one of them. He's amazing across multiple disciplines. And here in NASCAR, I mean, he's won at Phoenix, races well there. But a guy that also races really well there is Christopher Bell. Does he race better than Larson there? I don't know, probably not, maybe not. But Larson has done it before. He has the experience. Bell, maybe he's hungrier because he hasn't done it. I'm not sure. This is, man. Who am I going to pick? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. I'm going Christopher Bell to win the championship. He won there in the spring. He's going to win there in the fall.
All right, so those are predictions. I'm going to make a graphic for that, post it to the account. We'll see how they age in the later, and we'll end 10 weeks. Anyway, moving on to IndyCar land. That's a lot of NASCAR talk. I'm trying to find the doc here. Milwaukee, race 1. There was the start was waved off. A trend we'll see later. McLaughlin leads from pole, lap 49. Linus Lundqvist takes the lead. Green flag pit stops, with the top 5 being Pato O'Ward, Colton Herta, McLaughlin, Lundqvist, Rossi. 5 had a huge undercut, got him to the lead. 26, Herta lap to the lead, lap 77. Catherine Legg spin, lap 183. Caution is out. McLaughlin and Robb stayed out, but the top 5 off pit road were Herta, O'Ward, Rossi, Malukas, and Roman Grosjean. Lap 119, Pato O'Ward to the lead. Green flag pit stops. O'Ward, Newgarden, Armstrong, Palou, Power. Lap 148, Ericsson spins and collects Newgarden. That was a racing incident there. 2 guys battling over the same space with equal claims to it. Lap 158 restart. Pato O'Ward leads. Green flag pit stops. Lap 187. Our favorite thing happened in racing, Ethan.
A loose wheel!
Yep, off of Colton Herta, yellow. So that had a thing. 4 guys had not stopped. Power, Daly, the 8 of Lundqvist and Lundgaard. Everyone else, Ferrucci and O'Ward were on the lead lap. So those 2 went to the front, and then the rest of the lead lap cars were Power, the 45 of Lundgaard, Lundqvist, and Daly, and then there's a group of lapped cars, and then the rest of the lead lap cars that took the wave around. Lap 204 restart, Pato leads. On lap 233, Power and Daly pass Ferrucci. Pato wins. O'Ward, Power, and Connor Daly podium, getting the team's first podium in history. I give that race a 6 out of 10.
Big shout out Connor Daly.
But first, before we get into race 2, IndyCar CEO Mark Miles didn't make the greatest choice of words with his comments, saying he was trying to praise Pato O'Ward. He was going on, and there was this one part of his quote where he said Pato O'Ward is not as famous as Adrian Fernandez was in his peak. And saying that he doesn't have billboards like Fernandez does, which is very questionable. So you get the chicken award, Mark Miles. There you go.
Jesus.
Mark, just not
You're
great
such
comments.
An unserious thing.
Yeah, but it is serious. Mark Miles, CEO. Be better at doing at your job. You have And at the same weekend, you know what the president of IMS Indianapolis Motor Speedway was doing? He went to the race as a fan, sat in the stands with his wife. Now that's what you should be doing. Just seeing your product from your consumer's point of view. That's smart. And what was funny about it is NASCAR trucks who were at the racetrack in Milwaukee the week before, they were on a billboard. Indycar was not. So
we've talked about how Indycar has the worst advertising and marketing of pretty much anything ever.
Yeah, I would agree. Going on to race 2, however, race 2 had drama to start the race. Palou stopped on the pace laps. Big championship implications. You would figure he might not even be able to start the race. He wound up eventually getting it. So he had to start the race under yellow for lap Palou. So lap 6 was the start. Start was waved off because the back of the field was doing back of the field things, not being close to each other. But Lundqvist hit Armstrong, who hit pole sitter Joseph Newgarden. So 2 innocent bystanders got eliminated without their race starting. So that was not a very good move by Lundqvist. Palou at this time goes back on the track, and then cut to Palou getting towed to the garage again. How fun for that team. Lap 17, McLaughlin leads. Lundqvist got his drive-through avoidable contact penalty. Palou back on track. Lap 44, Will Power to the lead. Green flag pit stops with Power, Rossi, McLaughlin, Malukas, and Award. Malukas was slow. Caution. Under the caution, Connor Daly has a mechanical issue. Malukas had a mechanical issue as well. Lap 72, Power holds on restart. Lap 91, Award has a mechanical issue. Doesn't cause a caution. Green flag pit stops with Power, McLaughlin, Rossi, Ferrucci, Ericsson the top 5. Lap 113, Stingray Rob spins yellow. And shout out Stingray Rob. It's his birthday today at the recording of the podcast. So there you go. You have the 3 and 12 pit of McLaughlin and Power. That's the order they came out, where everyone else stayed out. So that turned the lead over to Rossi, Dixon, Ericsson, and Herta and Ferrucci. At 125 restart, Alexander Rossi leads, and then in the back, Rahal crash was hit by Rasmussen. At 132 restart, Rossi leads, and Will Power spins all by himself. So big championship implications there. If Power doesn't spin there, that's probably a total loss of. Let me check, because he lost 2. He finished there. I'm just doing some math in my head. Wound up finishing 10th, but at the minimum, he probably would have had 20 points that he could have gained. So if he loses the championship by 20, that's a big loss. And then we talked about the Palou gaining at Gateway when he was fortunate to be swerving the Will Power's wreck, and now you have Will Power doing where Palou had misfortune, Power unable to capitalize as much as he could have. So that's a big thing there. And we'll talk about points after this race. Rasmussen had a drive-through, green flag pit stops off of the Herta, McLaughlin, Rossi, Ferrucci, VK. Herta and VK, they were trying to cut a stop. Green flag pit stops. Herta, it was the same top 4, except you have Dixon in there at 5th. Lap 218, McLaughlin to lead. Lap 228, Stingray Rob had a crash. The 7 lead lap cars pit. And the top 5 is McLaughlin, Rossi, Dixon, Herta, Ferrucci back on the lead lap. Ericsson, Power, and Kirkwood. Dixon and Herta passed Rossi for second and third. Lundgaard had a drive-through for some reason, and it was a McLaughlin, Dixon, Herta podium. So that was a 9 out of 10 race, very chaotic, but very interesting. And now,
Monza time?
not yet.
No.
That there's a 33-point difference between Power and Palou right now, with Palou leading. Well, there's only 2 drivers that can win at Nashville, win the championship going into Nashville. Power is a better oval racer than Palou, and Power needs to finish in the top 3 to win. It is to get the.
How low would Palou have to finish,
Palou
though?
would have to finish as low as. I'm doing math here. 54 minus 33 is 21. He would finish as low as high as 10th. And
Alex Palou, your championship might be safe.
And in the ovals this year, Palou has finished in the bottom, has not finished in the top 9 twice. He's not done it twice. He was two of 6 so far, and of Power finishing the top 3, he is 2 of 6. So
yeah.
A very low chance that Palou could lose it, but
a
there's
chance.
a chance. So
I would love to see Will Power to win again after everything that he's been through, but I think that Alex Palou does have enough to hold it off.
I'm going to quickly go over Lone Star Le Mans real quick. It did rain a little bit.
Can anyone raise their hands if they care about Lone Star Le Mans?
But Robert Kubica...
No one raised their hands. Not even you raised your hand.
I'm going anyway. Robert Kubica got a win in his Ferrari.
Shout out, Rob!
Along with Robert Schwartzman and Ye Yiffy.
I love that. Love that for those guys.
So they won in the AF Corsa. So in Hypercar, there's been 6 races. There's been 6 different teams, or 6 different cars have won. We'll see if that continues into Fuji. The team that I always like to pick, but I didn't pick them this time, Heart of Racing, they won an LMGT3. Ian James, Alex Riberas, Daniel Mancelli. So, yeah, the points leaders didn't change. It's still Porsche Penske and Manthey Pure Racing. So, not much has changed into the final 2 races there. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for Lone Star Le Mans. I don't know if I mentioned it rained a little bit.
You did.
All right.
Okay. Now Monza time.
Yes.
Okay. We've already spent 30 minutes so far, so I will try to go quickly, but I do have things to talk about. Before the race, I would like to talk about the F3 Championship wrapping up. We don't talk much about F3 on here, but the championship did end in Monza, and it looked like Gabriel Mini was going to win. He was running in second with Leonardo Fornaroli in fourth. However, Leonardo Fornaroli made a move for third in the very last corner, Parabolica. It was a train of cars, Mini in the front, Fornaroli in the back. Fornaroli made that move. Gabriel Mini could have watched it in his wing mirror, losing the championship. But at the end, it didn't even matter anyway, because Gabriel Mini was disqualified. So either way, after all that, Leonardo Fornaroli would have won the championship anyway. But what is very interesting, and to me pretty funny, Leonardo Fornaroli didn't win a single race in F3 this year. Gabriel Mini won 1 race in F3 this year. The top 2 guys in the championship won 0 and 1 races, respectfully. F3 is just not real. The guy with the most wins, I believe, was Arvid Lindblad. He finished 4th in the championship because from Hungary on, it was just horrific for him.
Didn't even score a single point.
Yeah, after winning 4 races in the first 7 rounds. So, F3, hilarious as always. Fornaroli has been announced already for F2 next year. I'm sure Mini will also be announced, and
some of the other guys. That's how it works.
Because that is how it works. But yeah, just quick little Formula 3 update there. And then on to the big show. Lando Norris starting on pole. This time he did not bottle it. Finally got a really good start. Was completely ahead of everyone going into turn 1. And it did eventually get disastrous for Norris later on that lap. But before it got disastrous for him, George Russell went off track. But then anyway, at turn 4, Oscar Piastri made a beautiful, truly beautiful, albeit rather stupid move on Lando Norris for the lead. Lando lost out on second as well to Charles Leclerc because he had to slow down in order to not crash with Piastri, because although it was a very nice move, it was a reckless move, especially to pull on your teammate. So because of that, he lost out on second as well. And that move might have cost McLaren a win since they were no longer running with that 1-2 advantage. And it's just, I know a lot of people on F1 Twitter were like, oh, you can't blame Oscar for that and all that. No, you can't, but you can blame McLaren, because McLaren needed to step in and say, hey, Oscar, you're an amazing driver. We love you. We think you can win a championship for us later down the road, but this is Lando's year. He has a shot at the championship. You don't. You need to support him. Just like he supported you in Hungary, you need to support him from here on out. And McLaren didn't do that. McLaren, get your you-know-what out of your you-know-what. What are you doing? Support your driver who has a chance, an outside chance, but still a chance of winning the Drivers' Championship, because you're also helping yourself win the Constructors' Championship, because you had a 1-2 advantage that you no longer had after that reckless move. Do you want to win? Are you a serious team? Zach Brown, Andrea Stella, you guys were the stars of the first half of the year. And now you're looking like clowns. You painted your face, you put on your nose, you put on your wig, you rolled up to Italy. I mean, that's what Ferrari was made fun of for years. Ferrari went from an elite team in the sport to a laughingstock. McLaren, you have the chance to be elite. Don't be a laughingstock. Back to the action, though. Lower down the grid, Nico Hülkenberg lost out on a few positions after making contact with Daniel Ricciardo. That threw some gravel on the racing line. Ricciardo got a 5-second time penalty, and then he got another penalty for failing to serve that time penalty because the genius that was going to change his front wing or whatever accidentally touched the front wing before the 5 seconds were up. So that pretty much ruined any chance at points that Ricciardo had. On lap 5, Hülkenberg would send it into turn 1 late, and he crashed into Yuki Tsunoda, and Yuki Tsunoda would have to retire shortly after. Hülkenberg frustrated after the contact with Ricciardo earlier on. On lap 11, Sergio Perez passed George Russell for 7th place. Russell went from fighting for a podium into turn 1 to 8th place on lap 8. Magnussen was able to pass Daniel Ricciardo on that same lap. On lap 15, Lando boxes trying to undercut on Leclerc. Next lap, Leclerc and Hamilton come in. Lando's undercut did work, and Charles was like, yo, why did we pit here? We knew he was going to undercut us. Why didn't we go long? Ferrari heard the words go long, and they were like, that is a great idea. And you'll see what they did later on in the race. On lap 18, Magnussen tries for another overtake. This time it was not so successful. You're wondering, why are you talking about Kevin Magnussen so much? Well, you'll see at the end of the race. Magnussen, he hit Pierre Gasly at the second chicane, and he got a 10-second time penalty and 2 penalty points on his license. For any people doing the math out there, the answer is yes. On lap 33, Lando pit. He was on 2-stop strategy. On lap 34, Magnussen passes Albon for 9th at the first chicane. Lap 38, Russell finally passes Perez back after what was a very long and very intense battle. Lasted long time, really long time. Lap 39, your race leader, Oscar Piastri, comes into pit. Leclerc this time does not come into pit. A lap later, 2 laps later, any laps later, he went long. And here's the thing. McLaren, they should have seen that the advantage that Lando had on his new tires from pitting a few laps earlier, he wasn't really that much quicker than the Ferraris were on their old tires. They should have seen that data, and they should have had Piastri stay out. But they didn't. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. Lap 41, Lando was able to pass Verstappen into the first corner for 4th place. He's making his way back up the grid after his pit stop there. On lap 45, Piastri is doing the same, passing Sainz for 2nd, right before Ascari. Lando was able to pass Sainz a couple laps after that, lap 48, right before turn 1. So the podium is Leclerc, Piastri, Norris, with the race winding down. The McLarens are catching up to Leclerc, but it is not enough. Lap 53, Charles Leclerc made the long strategy work, nursed the tires to the end, was able to hold off the McLarens. The top 10 classification was Leclerc, Piastri, Norris, Sainz, Hamilton, Verstappen, Russell, Perez, Magnussen, Albon. Franco Colapinto, he got 12th on debut. And Magnussen, he got points. First points for him in a while. Good for him. But also,
Was it worth it?
was it worth it? I mean, he didn't do anything crazy to get those points. He did something reckless independently. But what he did was, as I said earlier, crash into Pierre Gasly. And, I mean, got 2 penalty points for that. Race ban, because he's now over the limit of 12 in the last 12 months. He'll have to sit out Baku. And Oliver Behrman is probably the favorite to replace him, so seeing as he is going to be racing for that team next year. I mean, man, Magnussen, I thought this was actually going to happen way before Baku rolled around. I'm surprised he was able to hold off this long, being right on the edge of penalty points, considering the way he was driving earlier on in the year. Yeah.
I guess from the news now.
I just want to say a couple things real quick. Max, as I said, he finished 6th. He was really frustrated at his team, essentially for not being locked in. He was Red Bull seems checked out right now, and you can't be checked out. You're still in a battle.
Mm-hmm.
So Max, he was getting on his team for that. And as I said earlier, media, rightfully so, was going in on McLaren. Like, we don't have time to go into it, and I pretty much said everything I need to say. But McLaren, they got to lock in. They got to realize they have a chance to win the Constructors' Championship. They have to win they have a chance to win the Drivers' Championship. You need some team orders. Almost every single championship of the last forever has been won because of team orders. Teammates help teammates win the championship. Valtteri Bottas, he helped Lewis Hamilton win plenty of his championships. It's not just Hamilton. You can say the same thing for Schumacher. You can say the same thing for so many drivers. It is so hard to win a championship without your teammate. That doesn't make a guy like Lando Norris a fraud because he needs his teammate to help him win the championship. In F1, that's just the way it works. Sorry if you don't like it, but that is just the way it works. McLaren needs to realize that. Now, Andrew, we can go on to the news because I could rant about this for 17 million hours, but we don't have time for that. And now for the news. I'm going to start off with F1 news since I'm already talking. Kimi Antonelli, in what I have written on our sheet as Kimi Antonelli to Mercedes in the most surprising move of all time ever. I think that pretty much says it. Kimi Antonelli, absolutely not a surprise to be in that Mercedes seat. We all knew it was going to happen. This was announced the day after he drove in FP1 for Mercedes, which he was doing pretty well before he crashed at Parabolica. But it's Parabolica. Things happen. We've already said our opinions on Kimi Antonelli. We think he's good. We think that he's being rushed into that Mercedes seat. And if you saw the Instagram story that we put out, that I put out, I basically said, I understand why Mercedes is doing it, because they don't want to risk an Oscar Piastri situation, and they kind of get to mold him as well into the kind of driver they want, and I understand that, but I still think that he's being rushed. Put him in the Williams for a year, maybe 2. Carlos Sainz was right there to drive for you guys. I think it's definitely going to be a learning curve for Kimi, and I don't think Mercedes is going to regret it, but I think there will be some frustration there because Kimi isn't going to be what they kind of need him to be right away.
Any headphones being smashed from Toto?
I don't know if it'll reach that level, but maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Another move, Adrian Newey. It is pretty much official that he is going to the Stroll company. Aston Martin, however you want to say it. This is being reported by pretty much everyone, so it's not really a rumor at this point. The Athletic is reporting it, so credible news sources are saying that Adrian Newey is soon to be announced over there. How much is it going to be contract-wise? How long? We don't know exactly. Planet F1 is saying it's going to be $100 million over 3 years. I don't know. We'll see. But we do know now, after months of speculation, that Adrian Newey will be wearing green next year. He's not going to join Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton. He's going to be joining up with Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll, and co. Andrew, what do you think of that? Because I think that this is undoubtedly huge for Austin. They were a team that looked promising. Now they don't look so much promising.
They're just there.
They're just there. And then now you bring Adrian Newey, who has pretty much won everywhere he's went. And now, you have to have excitement about that because you can think that they're going to be back on that correct trajectory. I don't think that they're going to maybe, be all of the sudden winning races, but it is a massive step towards that direction, of course,
Yeah, if I'm wearing a green shirt, I'm feeling optimistic.
Yeah. We'll see exactly what Adrian's role over there is going to be. I would assume it's more of a consultant role than an everyday hands-on role, which could potentially limit the impact, but either way, this is huge for Aston Martin. This is a winning move. This is Lawrence Stroll throwing millions at a problem. And to anyone who says that money doesn't fix everything, in Formula One, it kind of does. So, huge move for them. And then, 2 really quick stories. Things are kind of being thrown around. Things are being teased for what would be a sprint race for rookies at the Abu Dhabi postseason test. Stefano Domenicali, the CEO of Formula One, says that things are being looked into. And man, I think that would be so fun. The junior drivers, the academy drivers getting to drive the F1 machinery in a sort of sprint race after the season. It would give them more experience. It would be really cool to see. I think it would be a lot of fun. So hopefully Formula One does that. And then finally, as we know, Franco Colapinto is in that Williams seat. And like we said, it's not that he doesn't deserve it. It's just that for the type of driver that Williams wants, it's confusing that they went with Franco Colapinto. Now we get something that kind of makes more sense. Williams Racing is introducing Mercado Libre as a partner. For anyone like me who was like, who is Mercado Libre? They are one of the biggest companies in South America. They are an e-commerce and digital payment company. They're in the stock exchange, all that stuff. Huge company. You already know that they're going to bring in tons of money for Williams, so things make a little more sense there now.
Yeah.
And, this isn't me trying to on Franco Colapinto. It's just like, that happens to every driver. To some extent, or not every driver, but a lot of drivers, they do bring in money. So it's not just a Franco Colapinto thing, but it makes sense. It helps this move make sense.
Yeah. This thing, I'm going to use this as a transition point here. And because Williams right away gets this Argentinian money. Ricardo Juncos, an Argentinian dude with an Argentinian team in Indycar for I don't know how many years, 2-3 years now. He couldn't get any Argentinian money with Canapino. So that's interesting. But moving over to IndyCar news real quickly. Ed Carpenter stepping down in favor of Christian Rasmussen for Milwaukee and Nashville. Good move. Ed Carpenter just doesn't have that dog anymore now, unfortunately. But moving over to NASCAR schedule, that dropped. That's really the only NASCAR news of the year, or
week. Not year.
My brain is not there.
We've been here for a minute.
Yeah. New changes that we already didn't know, and we knew that Mexico City was getting a race, and that would be replacing Richmond, and that would be, and Clash moving from LA Coliseum to Bowman Gray. Homestead, Atlanta 2, and Watkins Glen go to regular season. In-season tournament, the races will be Atlanta 2, Chicago, Sonoma, Dover, and Indianapolis. Gateway, New Hampshire, Darlington 2 in the playoffs. Daytona 2 now back to the regular season cutoff race. Round of 16, Darlington, Gateway replace Atlanta and Watkins Glen, respectively. Round of 12, Kansas moves back a race. New Hampshire replaces Talladega. 10, then round of 8, Talladega replaces Homestead. Xfinity and Truck Series, they go to Rockingham on Easter. Cup, that weekend, Cup is off. That and no Olympic Cup break, so that's good. Xfinity joins Cup in Mexico.
That'll be fun.
Xfinity gains a second Gateway and second Bristol. They lose Richmond, Fall, Darlington, New Hampshire, and Michigan, along with Rockingham, and they also gain another one somewhere. Just I'm realizing that the math isn't mathing. Actually, no, the math does math. Rockingham, Mexico, Gateway, and second Bristol, losing Richmond, Fall, Darlington, New Hampshire, and Michigan. So trucks, they go to 2 races. Gains 2 races from 23 to 25. They get Lime Rock, new road course up in Connecticut. Well, not new, but it's a road course up in Connecticut. That's new to the Truck Series.
New to them.
Rockingham, Michigan, Watkins Glen, Roval, and New Hampshire. They lose Circuit of the Americas, Gateway, Milwaukee, and Kansas too. I would say these changes are all good, I would say. Only thing that I kind of don't like seeing is losing Milwaukee. I'd like to keep that on some schedule at some point. I like having different racetracks, as many as possible. I think that's good for the series. Better tapping into markets, and that's something that they're losing. I didn't feel it was necessary.
I agree with you. Someone should be racing in Milwaukee.
You've got IndyCar there, but
NASCAR should be there as well.
NASCAR should be there too.
COTA, I mean, for me personally, I enjoyed the chaos that was the truck race at COTA this year. But I get it.
It always is, but maybe we'll see it on there again sometime soon.
And now for next week's race previews.
Moving into Atlanta previews.
Did we talk about IndyCar?
Yeah, I did
Okay.
talk about that. That was like the one thing that we talked about.
Sure.
Preview Atlanta. I'm going to give you my 5 drivers to watch. First, William Byron, 2 races there since the reconfiguration. Chase Elliott won a race there since the reconfiguration. Joey Logano, he's won a race there since the reconfiguration. Daniel Suarez has won there as well. And I'm going to go with my 5th driver is not the guy I picked, actually. I am going to pick as mentioned, Brad Keselowski, because he's ran there a couple times. Ran well there, had a couple seconds there. So those are my 5 guys to watch out for. A couple of not one-off entries, but of the guys that change cars, you have 15 Cody Ware, 16 SVG, 44 will be there with JJ Elliott, and 78 will be BJ McLeod with his team. Xfinity, going through that quickly, you have Lawless Allen back in the 15 this week with AM Racing. Joe Gibbs All-Star cars are going to be Taylor Gray and Ryan Truex in the 19 and 20 respectively. Corey Heim, 26 for Sam Hunt. 35 and 53 will be both there for Joey Gase Racing with Mason Maggio and Morgan Baird respectively. Moving through the list, 74 is TBA for Mike Harmon. 92 is Nick Lights for DGM, the second DGM car, 91 their main car. Alpha Prime is going to have their 3rd car with Garrett Smithley. CJ McLaughlin in the 07 and Mason Massey the 4th for the 14 in the SS Greenlight cars. Ethan, we're now going into the pick points.
Yep. And now for next week's race picks. Let's do it.
We're just going to mention quickly, I'm not going to go through everything. Ethan got 17 points last week. I had 16.
I would like to shout out my genius though. You thought I was a madman for not having Verstappen on my podium.
Yeah, good job. And the guests got 9. Ethan, maybe my Wi-Fi is slow or something, but it doesn't have the guest picks for this week on mine.
I got it. I got it from here, Andrew. But before we do go into this week, 275 for Andrew, 298 for me, 211 for the guests. Mr. Giuliano Moeller, he's our guest this week for the picks. He'll be on the show at some point, probably. But he's going with Austin Hill for Xfinity, Ryan Blaney for Cup. I'm going with Austin Hill for Xfinity. You're going with Ryan Blaney for Cup. So we have some agreement with the guest on different levels. You're going Jesse Love, Xfinity, and I'm going William Byron for the Cup Series. And
Jesse Love led the most laps there before running out of fuel.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all we have for you today. This time, trying to rush out of here. Trying to keep episodes under an hour now. So yeah, we'll see ya. Andrew, anything left to say?
Bye.
Bye.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked the fine time to leave me loose, wheel.